Let's start talking about this recent CPAC meeting that was held and talk about the leaders that came out of it. Are we surprised by the straw poll numbers and who's leading? And what does that say about the conservative movement in the U.S. right now? Is watching those straw polls really indicative of what's happening in the larger country?
But I think that what you're seeing with Ron Paul running the straw poll, this isn't unusual. He won it last year, but he speaks to a lot of libertarian ideas, which, as we know, the Tea Party kind of got going again. I mean, they really put conservative ideas and thoughts on the map again that many voters felt like the Republican Party had abandoned. Physical conservative philosophies like lower taxes, less government, and how, as an individual, do I maintain my choice in relationship to my government. So, what I think was interesting about CPAC, I actually got to walk around a little bit. 11,000 people, the biggest crowd they've had in a long time, and regardless of what, side of the aisle you sit on, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, I think it's great that people want to vote and engage in the political process. And when I was there, I felt like people were really just excited about the potential to affect change really on the individual level.
I think the poll is really indicative of who we're going to see in 2012. I think it's too soon.
Right. But
I'm not surprised to see Ron Paul. He's got the groundswell. He's got the grassroots. It's not surprising. Right. Romney, on the other hand, I think he's your very stable, traditional candidate. It's not surprising that he's near the top as well. The other thing to come since CPAC is Christie. Right. Is everyone's floating his name, and he's saying, "Whoa, not me."
He came out vocally saying not me.
Well, I actually think he won't run. I don't think he's going to run this time. I think he's holding off for the next round, and I think it's quite smart of him to do it. Mm-hmm. Let the others fight it out, and I think because the biggest thing I see coming up for the Republicans is that whoever does get nominated, this has to be somebody that is acceptable to both traditional Republicans and Tea Partiers, and that's a very hard shoe to fill.
You'll have a hard time if those groups split.
You will, and they know it, and I think that it's going to be an interesting thing to see. I don't think Romney fits both bills, and I think, he normally would be somebody that I'd be saying right now could actually be running for them. Right. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the front runner is going to emerge as somebody who can be acceptable, because if they cannot harness the power of the Tea Party, it's going to be a different game.
And is that going to be it? Is the clincher finding the Tea Party? Do you think the Tea Party is going to set the tone moving forward?
I don't know about that. I think that the Tea Party has brought up a lot of issues. I think that really CPAC, I think, illustrated some of this, but I think we've been seeing this for a while. There are just some splits within the conservative movement that the party, GOP, is going to have to really figure out before nomination time comes around. I think, Iowa caucus season is heating up, and I think that there's going to be a lot of issues that come up over the next couple of months that, could make or break the party for this coming election.
Yeah, and I think Hannah's right. You have the social conservatives, and then you have the physical conservatives. But let's remember, it's not just going to be those factions. I think Mitch Daniels said it great at CPAC. We got to get to the centrist, the people who don't listen to Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, all the Glenn Becks of the world, and all what some people would consider radical Republican speakers. They're not really part of the party, but they're advocates for the party because they're media celebrities. I think it's the centrist, and I think Mitch Daniels has a good shot at pulling Democrats, because that's how Reagan won. Remember, Reagan didn't win just off of some radical platform. He ran off, look, I'm a responsible person, I believe in fiscal conservative values, and he didn't talk about social issues. So I actually think the nominee is going to have to distance himself from some of these social issues that really divide the party. And I mean, it's not about same-sex, it's not about pro-life, and I think that's what you were saying, Nicolette, with Romney. I mean, he's been there, done that. And I just don't, he's not a strong candidate.
No, I think Daniels is actually starting a different dialogue, and it's going to be interesting to see where he takes the vote.
Yeah, and he's like, we got to get away from the crazies people. I mean, he pretty much said that. And I think that's, it's great. I mean, being a Republican doesn't have to be a dirty word. I think that's really lit. I mean, let's face it. I think, let's be honest. I mean, the last 20 years with the Christian coalition that's held the party hostage, it's made the GOP look like a dirty word, and I'm not proud of that. I mean, I'm not, and I think you have some luminaries who really want to, change that image.
Well, then let's talk about that a little bit, thinking about the social issues and have things changed. Is the party moving center or needs to, and then I'm thinking about what came out of CPAC with the Go Proud, which is the group of gay conservatives that came and were a vendor at the event, and others decided to pull back. So what statement is that now saying? And are we really moving towards a different direction? Or does that tell us that we're not?
I don't think we are. I mean, unfortunately, I think social issues is going to be impossible to separate from them. I think gay marriage is a big issue right now. You have certain people like Huckabee or is it Palenti? I get the two confused all the time. But saying that if elected, he wants to go back on Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which is just an awful thing to think about. I think you have right now with the vote on Planned Parenthood, you know, there's social issues regarding the place of women in this country. I just think that social issues are going to be front and center for a while.
Yeah. Well, and there was just out of CPAC as well, there was I think a resolution that said that for next year, anyone that does not support the platform of repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell will not be invited back. So that is going to take that very faction you just spoke about and cause a rift if it in fact comes to pass. So I don't know that it's. I think you're right that there if the party is going to see a resurgence, it really does need to find voice with different populations that it has alienated thus far. And I don't know if it's going in that right direction.
Well, I think you do have forward-thinking people in the Republican Party. I think Mitch Daniels is one. I actually think Jeb Bush is a forward-thinking individual.
His name is getting bandied about a lot.
And I really hope I hope he wins. I think 2016 is going to be too late. And he was a great governor. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, I go back to Reagan because Reagan, you need a person who is strong enough to say, look, I am not going to put the social issues on the, that's how McDonnell won.
But you don't
Virginia.
feel that
Governor McDonnell and Chris Christie.
But do you really believe that Jeb Bush is I understand that he's a good politician and that he serves his district very, very well.
He was a good governor.
I agree. I just don't know that he is electable in the centrist way you were describing that Mitch Daniels.
I actually think he is. I think because you know what's interesting? He wrote this great op-ed talking about how the Republican Party needs to make the tent more welcoming about Hispanics and Latinos.
Yeah, I don't think it's his politics.
No.
I think it's his history and his family that makes him less electable.
Yes. I think it's a liability, but I think that he actually could overcome it. And I think he could be a dark horse that might enter the race.
I agree with you there, but I actually I don't know that people can look past the fact that two Bushes have already been president.
Right.
Not talking about his politics at all even.
No, I hear you. It's the Bush liability.
And now it's the legacy.
And not just the liability because he's a Bush, but because we've had two of them already.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you know it's interesting that you brought up the welcoming the tent for the Latino and Hispanic population, because I think that while he might be forward thinking on that, I have a really hard time seeing how the Republican Party has stood behind Arizona and these copycat bills around the country, that the party actually is welcoming.
Well, but immigration is different than their look, as a black woman, I don't think they're welcoming in minorities, period. But I think immigration as a policy issue is very different. You have the governor of New Mexico. She very much supports strong, hardcore immigration. She's not for amnesty, and she happens to be a Latina.
Actually, she doesn't support Arizona, though.
She supports immigration policies that don't grant amnesty to individuals who came over here through the back door.
Okay, but I think that...
So you were talking about, I'm just saying, let's not mix, I think that the immigration policy and the Republicans appealing to Latinos is somewhat different. I mean, I think lumping it together, yes.
I think it's really difficult for you not to lump them together.
But I
think the way in which the immigration conversation has happened, it's really impossible to me as a minority woman, of immigrant parents, to look at these policies and say, how are you not talking about me as a person?
Yeah, but I've actually talked to Latina and Hispanic conservatives who said that they are not for people, that their parents came in here the right way. And they actually take offense at people who come in the country illegally, don't pay into the system, and then all of a sudden act like that we are supposed to owe them something. We America are supposed to owe them. It's a lot of the dialogue.
That feels inflammatory.
It's a different time. It's also, if you're talking about it as if everyone that's here and illegal flouted the system, and that is actually not the case. So I do think it's a different. The hard part about immigration issue, I'm sure you'd agree, is there's a lot of circumstances lumped into the dialogue all together, and it's not that black and white.
It isn't, but I also think it's not as black and white for groups that are advocates of of Hispanics and Latinos to say it's just we should do carte blanche amnesty for everybody. That's not
But I don't
right.
think
either.
that's
a lot too,
yeah,
a lot too,
yeah,
a lot
right.
too.
And we
But
can
I
probably
think you
agree that
brought up
that's
an
not the way.
amazing
You know, I mean,
point though that I'm really intrigued in asking you, that you said that you think that there's more room for your party to embrace the shades of gray and to be more welcoming.
Absolutely.
And I, as you said, as a woman of color specifically too, that you see this. I'd like to. Who do you see that is at the forefront? And we mentioned Daniels. Who else do you see on the forefront that you would follow in that dialogue? Because that's interesting to me.
I think John Huntsman, the ambassador to China, he's actually stepping down in April. I like him. I like to see more of him, but he seems to be a sensible, rational. He was former governor of Utah. I think he could bring us forward in the area of, I think I struggle as a black woman within the party. I'm not denying that, and I think that they do a poor job with minorities. Haley Barbour's not a good example. He can never get the nomination.
Well, I think he just set the party back.
It's reprehensible. And I think, and
you wrote a beautiful piece on that, actually.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But on the gay issue too, and I think that, I didn't mean to get worked up a little bit over immigration, but when I think about the unemployed that we have, people I know who've been affected by unemployment, I get a little sensitive about, I don't think any issue is a blanket issue. I think they're nuanced to everything. But I think the GOP has a lot of work to do when it comes to race. They're not welcoming. It's really viewed as the party of the white male, still.
Well, and
Straight
after you
right.
read
Yeah.
comments like Haley Barbour's and others, you don't feel like you belong in that.
No, you don't.
Right.
It's not a club that they're allowing membership. It's very much
So
back
how do you
to,
reconcile that? How
Right.
does that work?
I have fundamental beliefs that tie me to, I guess, conservative values, more so than I feel more strongly wedded to that than the Democrat Party.
Right.
And I guess I feel like I want to work
Because I feel like there's a lot of fiscally conservative Democrats who
Yes.
socially create space. And you were saying that you something earlier that made me think of this, that created space socially in ways that I actually, for all of us to be part of that party,
Right,
and don't
right.
say just by that don't represent that by being you, by being a woman, by being
Right.
a woman of color, by being
Right.
gay, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing for me to reconcile. It was a very hard thing for me to reconcile coming from a Republican family
Right.
who, that's what you usually inherit a lot of our political and religious
Right,
beliefs,
exactly.
My
right?
dad was actually a Republican
Right.
too.
And so you have a lot of reconciling
Oh,
to
totally.
do, right?
So what made you? You were pulled, obviously.
I was
mean,
pulled
you're-
mostly because of acceptance, because the fact is, if you don't see me as a person who has a voice in this party, I don't know how to be there, right?
Right.
So if you tell me don't ask, don't tell, isn't viable, it's not part of, we cannot have this, you are not somebody that can be part of our military and out, you have to hide who you are. I don't get how I can sit in that party that doesn't square up with my view of humanity, of human rights,
Right.
so I can't be there.
Well, and
But
that's-
even if I am even if I am fiscally conservative,
Right.
I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
and when the examples of that started to multiply, that my desire, no matter what I believe religiously or as a woman, that my reproductive rights are not my own, I can't square that with the Republicans.
But Olympia Snow, she is a very progressive, forward-thinking Republican, always had been, and she doesn't necessarily. There are Republicans who are pro-choice.
No, I agree with that,
Yeah,
but I'm
and-
saying
and
that it was a confluence because here's
Yeah.
what happens: the policy impacts how I live.
Right.
It's in such a tremendous way as a woman.
Right.
That it's bigger than a vote. It's not just that I can have these views, it's that I believe that all women should have these views. Not that they should believe in the right, whether they believe in being able to have an abortion or not is
Right.
not what women's rights are about. It's
Right.
reproductive rights about.
Right.
It's about my control over my body and how I live. And the same thing with gay rights. It's not about whether or not you would engage in this behavior. It's
Right.
about everyone's right to live their life. And when a party represents that, if I don't believe it to be true for me, it can't be true for this person, that makes it very hard to square up for a political party. That's how I felt.
Are we going to lose people in the party? And are we going to continue to see these fractions kind of come off where you've got a Tea Party, you've got a this, based on some of these more social issues, which I would expect to see as we move forward. And so it'll be very interesting to see how things play out. as we grapple with all of this and the Republican Party finds out what its niche is, where it stands, and who's welcome at the table.